At 17 years old, Lamine Yamal isn't supposed to be here. Not here as a solution, not here as a reference point, not here as the player teams look for when matches get tight and pressure rises. At this age, football usually talks about potential, patience, and development. But Yamal has skipped that conversation entirely. For Barcelona, he's already a necessity. For Spain, he's already a difference maker. In decisive games, when plans collapse and space disappears, the ball finds him, again and again. And that's where the paradox begins. Because there's something both breathtaking and unsettling about a teenager becoming essential. When a player stops being the future and turns into the present, expectations don't grow gradually. They explode. Every dribble carries weight. Every decision feels final. Every off day becomes a story. Yamal isn't being prepared for responsibility. He's already living inside it. So the question that frames this entire story isn't about talent. That part is obvious. The real question is far more uncomfortable. Is this the birth of a generational genius being trusted at the perfect moment? Or the warning sign of a player asked to carry too much, too soon? Most great players follow a familiar path: brief appearances, controlled minutes, protection from the spotlight, time to fail in silence. Lamine Yamal never had that luxury. There was no gradual transition, no long apprenticeship in the shadows. From the moment he stepped onto the pitch, he wasn't treated like a project, he was treated like an answer. Barcelona didn't slowly introduce Yamal because Barcelona couldn't afford to. Injuries, financial pressure, and the collapse of old reference points forced the club to accelerate reality. Suddenly, a teenager wasn't just learning the game, he was solving it, playing full matches, making final decisions, facing double teams, being analyzed by the media as if he were a finished product. The contrast with Lionel Messi is striking. Messi was carefully protected, rotated, and allowed to grow without carrying the team. Yamal, on the other hand, arrived in a Barcelona that needed leadership immediately. The institution didn't push him forward out of impatience. It did so out of necessity. And in that urgency, Yamal didn't just survive. He adapted, fast. But skipping development stages comes with a cost. When responsibility arrives before maturity is complete, talent grows faster, but pressure grows even faster. What truly separates Lamine Yamal from other teenage prodigies isn't just what he can do with the ball, it's what he sees before the ball even arrives. His football intelligence operates at a level rarely associated with players so young. He reads defensive structures in real time, recognizes when to slow the play or accelerate it, and understands how to manipulate space rather than simply attack it. Yamal doesn't wait for openings to appear. He creates them. With subtle body feints, small changes of tempo, and intelligent positioning between the lines, he draws defenders toward him and destabilizes entire defensive blocks. Often, his best actions don't show up as goals or assists, but as the movement that unlocks the next pass, the next run, the next advantage. This is why coaches trust him, not because he's flashy, but because he's reliable. Under pressure, he chooses the correct option more often than not. He knows when to take risks and when not to. For a coach, that kind of decision-making is priceless. Talent excites, intelligence stabilizes, and in Yamal, both arrive far earlier than expected, making him not just hard to bench, but almost impossible to replace. Lamine Yamal's dribbling isn't built for showreels, it's built for solutions. Every touch has intent, every change of direction serves a purpose. He doesn't dribble to humiliate defenders or inflate statistics. He dribbles to break structures, force reactions, and tilt the game in his team's favor. That efficiency is what makes his style so dangerous. Statistically, Yamal sits among Europe's elite in successful dribbles and progressive actions, but numbers alone don't explain the impact. What matters is timing. He knows exactly when to engage his marker and when to release the ball. One dribble pulls two defenders. A second creates a numerical advantage. A third opens a passing lane or a shooting angle. In seconds, balance becomes chaos, and the defense never fully recovers. This is why teams start to depend on him. When possession stagnates, when spaces disappear, the natural instinct is to give Yamal the ball and let him tilt the field. His dribbling isn't decoration, it's a tactical weapon. And when a player consistently turns pressure into progress, coaches stop seeing him as a luxury. They start seeing him as essential. At first glance, Lamine Yamal's numbers look like a dream. Goals, assists, decisive actions, man of the match awards, production that many established stars would envy. For a teenager, the data feels unreal. But numbers don't just tell stories of success. Sometimes, they quietly create expectations that become impossible to manage. Every goal raises the standard. Every assist reinforces dependence. The more Yamal delivers in decisive moments, the more the system leans on him. Teammates look for him earlier. Coaches design patterns around him. Fans expect impact every time he touches the ball. What begins as recognition slowly turns into obligation. This is the invisible trap of early excellence. Statistics stop being impressive and start becoming a baseline. A great performance becomes normal. An average one feels like failure. And because Yamal keeps producing, the question of limits is never asked. The schedule doesn't slow down. The pressure doesn't ease. The demands simply increase. This is how overload begins, not through injury or collapse, but through constant reliance. And for a player still forming physically and mentally, those numbers, as brilliant as they are, carry a weight that doesn't show up on any stat sheet. Without announcements, without slogans, Barcelona has undergone a subtle but profound transformation. The team didn't officially decide to revolve around Lamine Yamal. It simply started happening. Match after match, possession naturally flows toward his side. Build-up patterns bend in his direction. When games stall, the ball finds him by instinct, not instruction. Opponents have noticed. Defensive blocks slide earlier. Fullbacks receive immediate cover. Double and even triple marking has become routine. Yet even under that attention, Barcelona still looks to Yamal as the solution. Not because he demands it, but because the alternatives feel less dangerous. This shift wasn't planned as a long-term project. It emerged from necessity. In moments of uncertainty, Yamal provides clarity. When structure breaks, he restores order. Teammates trust him to make the right decision under pressure. And that trust reshapes the team's behavior in real time. The danger lies in how natural it feels. When a club of Barcelona's size quietly reorganizes itself around a 17-year-old, it signals something extraordinary, but also something fragile. Because once a system orbits a player so young, balance becomes harder to maintain, and dependence, once formed, is difficult to undo. Every great Spanish generation has carried a face, a symbol that goes beyond tactics and numbers. In 2010, that face was Andrés Iniesta. Calm, decisive, timeless. His goal in Johannesburg didn't just win a World Cup, it gave Spain an identity to rally around. 16 years later, history is quietly repeating itself, but much earlier than expected. As Spain looks ahead to the 2026 World Cup, the spotlight is already drifting toward Lamine Yamal. Not because he asked for it, not because the media forced it, but because in decisive moments, he delivers. At club level, at international level, in matches where fear exists, he plays without it. The difference is timing. Iniesta became Spain's symbol after years of growth, experience, and maturity. Yamal is being cast into that role before adulthood. He represents a new Spain, more vertical, more daring, less patient, but still rooted in technical intelligence. This symbolic weight is powerful. It can elevate a generation, but it also compresses time. When a nation starts seeing a teenager as its defining figure, expectations multiply instantly. And once that weight is placed on a young player's shoulders, it never fully comes off. No matter how many times Lamine Yamal tries to step away from it, the comparison follows him everywhere. Left-footed, La Masia, Barcelona, records broken before adulthood. For the football world, the equation feels automatic, but for the player, it's a burden he never requested. Yamal himself has been clear. He respects Messi as the greatest of all time, but he refuses to live inside that shadow. Not out of arrogance, out of survival. Because being labeled the next Messi doesn't elevate a young player. It compresses their identity. It turns development into expectation and mistakes into disappointments. The danger of the label isn't tactical or technical. It's psychological. Messi was protected, eased in, allowed to grow without carrying the weight of replacing a myth. Yamal, on the other hand, is asked to represent continuity, hope, and revival, all at once. This comparison strips away patience. It ignores context, and it forgets a simple truth. Football history doesn't repeat itself. It evolves. Yamal isn't meant to be the next Messi. He's meant to survive becoming Lamine Yamal in a world that already wants him to be someone else. This is the moment where admiration turns into concern. Because football has been here before, and the warning signs are familiar. Extraordinary talent arrives early, responsibility follows immediately, and protection comes too late. At Barcelona, recent history offers clear reminders. Pedri's overload and recurring injuries, Ansu Fati's meteoric rise followed by physical setbacks, Gavi's relentless intensity catching up with his body. The pattern isn't intentional, but it's real. Modern football doesn't slow down for prodigies. The calendar is unforgiving. Competitions overlap, recovery windows shrink, and when a young player keeps delivering, the temptation is always the same. One more match, one more start, one more responsibility. Yamal now stands at that crossroads. His talent demands minutes, his importance demands trust, but his age demands protection. Balancing those three forces is one of the hardest challenges elite clubs face, and one they don't always get right. This isn't about limiting greatness. It's about preserving it. Because the biggest mistake football can make isn't pushing a young star too fast. It's failing to stop when everyone else keeps asking for more. Lamine Yamal's story is no longer just about talent. That chapter is already written. What comes next will be decided somewhere else, in training schedules, rotation plans, medical decisions, and the courage to say, "Not today," when the world demands more. At 17, he stands at a fork in the road that has defined many careers before him. One path leads to generational greatness. A player protected at the right moments, allowed to grow without burning out, guided into leadership rather than forced into it. The other is quieter, more dangerous. A path where brilliance is consumed too quickly by expectation, minutes, and pressure. Yamal himself can't choose this alone. The future depends on the decisions made around him. Coaches, clubs, federations, all play a role in whether this story becomes legendary or cautionary. And now the question belongs to you. Do you believe football has learned how to protect its rarest talents? Or are we watching history repeat itself in real time? If this story made you think, leave a comment, drop a like, and subscribe for more deep football stories. And if you want to keep going, the next video is on your screen right now.